aftermath of World War II, racing quickly regained popularity, which naturally meant the manufacture of sports cars, from both traditional performance brands and new upstarts. The U.S. was not excluded from this, and included the tiny 1,100-pound Crosley Hotshot, with its 724cc, 44 cubic inch, 27 horsepower, overhead cam inline-4. On an 85-inch wheelbase and having a top speed of 80 miles an hour, with racing successes of its own, winning the first Sebring endurance race against opponents that included Ferrari and Jaguar. The Playboy wasn't particularly sporty, using a 2.2-liter Hercules inline-4 with 48 horsepower and 88 pound-feet of torque. Backed up by an optional overdrive 4-speed, 60 took just over 27 seconds, and it topped out just under 75 miles an hour. Wheelbase was 90 inches, overall length 155 inches, and weight about 2,100 pounds. But it was the first car with a folding retractable hardtop. Curtiss Craft specialized in race cars, but also dabbled in road-going models, including the aluminum-bodied Curtiss Craft Sport. The 2,300-pound car had a 100-inch wheelbase, and prices starting at $3,500 to $5,000. 20 were made, with either a 90-horsepower Ford V8 or an 160-horsepower Lincoln V8. Most sports cars of the period, however, came from Britain. The four-wheeled four-cylinder Morgan 4.4 had a 39-horsepower, 63 pound-feet of torque 1.2-liter engine on a 92-inch wheelbase, getting to 60 in just over 23 seconds and almost hitting the 75-mile-an-hour mark. Even with a price of just over $1,200, less than 250 were sold before 1950. The MGTC had a 1.3-liter inline-4 with 54 horsepower and 64 pound-feet of torque on a 95-inch wheelbase, getting an impressive 23 miles per gallon and selling in England with a cost of around 550 pounds and selling in the U.S. close to $1,200, doing 60 in the mid-19-second range and almost able to reach 80. Early post-war Triumph Roadsters started with a 65-horsepower 1800 before upgrading to a 68-horsepower 2000cc inline-4. Wheelbase was 100 inches, weight was about 1,100 pounds, and the upgraded version could do 60 in under 28 seconds and do above 75 miles an hour. The AC 2-liter arrived in 1947. The aluminum straight 6 was 25 years old by this point, but it still produced 74 horsepower and 92 pound-feet of torque in its current form. The wheelbase was 117 inches, and the car weighed in at 2,900 pounds. It could reach 60 in 20 seconds and climb above 80. It retailed in England for more than $3,300 before tax. The 1947 Bristol 400 showed as much of its BMW origins as BMW did. Having an 80-horsepower 2-liter Hemi straight 6, it ran on an 114-inch wheelbase and weighed 2,600 pounds, with prices in the neighborhood of $7,000. 60 arrived in the mid-18-second range, with a top speed over 90. The Frazer-Nash Mil Miglia used the Bristol Hemi 2-liter straight 6 with the same 80 horsepower on a 96-inch wheelbase. Aston Martin made 15 David Brown Specials, later known as the DB1, using a 90-horsepower 2-liter straight 4 and weighing in around 2,500 pounds. It was capable of doing more than 90 miles an hour and selling in the U.S. with prices around $7,200. The Allard K1 had a 106-inch wheelbase and was available with the 3.6-liter Ford V8 and 95 horsepower. It also could do 90 miles an hour and cost $3,000 without the engine. 151 were made. Healey had a number of variations of the 2.4-liter. The big inline-4 was provided by Riley with 104 horsepower and 132 pound-feet of torque. Wheelbase was 102 inches, and weight ranged from 2,500 to 2,900 pounds. A Westland could do nearly 100 miles an hour and reach 60 in about 12.5 seconds. Jaguar's XK120 used a 3.4-liter inline 6 with either 150 horsepower or 160 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. Wheelbase was 102 inches, and it was available in several tunes and gear ratios. In standard tune with 160 horsepower, the XK120 could do 120 miles an hour, hence the name. The price started at just over $4,000, and it could reach 60 in under 9 seconds, causing some to consider it to be the first supercar. Most of the exotic models from France were gone, although there was the Talbot-Lago Grand Sport, which started with a 4.5-liter straight six with 190 horsepower, typically on a 104-inch wheelbase. Essentially just a shorter, sleeker version of the saloon, it was able to do 125 miles an hour and started at nearly $6,000. Considered the most powerful road car of the period, but making only a dozen a year, with all being custom bodied. In Germany, Porsche introduced the road-going 356 in 1948. The 1,700-pound car ran on an 83-inch wheelbase and was powered by a 40-horsepower, 53 pound-feet of torque, 1,100cc flat 4. It took 21 seconds to get to 60, and the top speed was just shy of 90, while the carryover BMW 327 was lower, shorter, and slightly lighter than the 326. On a 108-inch wheelbase, it still weighed close to 2,400 pounds, and it used the same 55-horsepower 2-liter straight six, and was available as a coupe and convertible. The limited production exotic sports car was already something expected from Italy. The Cisitalia 202, introduced in 1946, gave us the future of sports car styling. At $5,500, it had a one-piece aluminum body shell and used a Fiat 1100cc inline 4. Maserati's limited production A6 had a 1.5-liter straight six with 64 horsepower and 74 pound-feet of torque. It reached 60 in under 19 seconds and had a top speed of around 90. Ferrari began selling cars to a select few mere mortals, starting with the 166S. The wheelbase was 95 inches and it weighed 2,000 pounds, with prices starting at $8,500 and using an 89 horsepower, 92 pound-feet of torque, 2-liter V12. 60 came in 10.5 seconds, on its way to 90 miles an hour. While the traditional Italian sports car, Alfa Romeo, was almost common, with the 6C being made in the hundreds. Base versions of the 2.5-liter straight six had 86 horsepower and 130 pound-feet of torque. The Super Sports, 103 horsepower and 152 pound-feet of torque, and the competition model, 143 horsepower. A Super Sport could do more than 90 and reach 60 in just over 15 seconds. This is hardly the sports car invasion that it was made out to be, but there would be more to come. So until then, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below and like and subscribe.